Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. Here are two more of my own stories from the archives. I do like writing to a variety of challenges and have done over 100 of these stories so far. You can read them via my website at ravensview.ca. I'll be doing these on Fridays and some of the classics on Tuesdays. The prompt for the first story was to write about a nosy neighbor. My older listeners might recognize her. Too nosy for her own good. Jeffrey, yoo-hoo! I jumped and slammed the freezer door shut, or at least tried to. I had to first tuck in the end of a leg before trying again. I turned back to the screen door. Hopefully she'd see nothing. Hello, Mrs. Kravitz. I caught her staring at the freezer for a moment. Oh, Jeffrey, you're always so formal. I keep telling you, it's Gladys. Look, I baked some pies today, and I did a couple extra for you. I was betting she'd only bake my two as an excuse to come over and snoop some more. At least she wasn't trying to peer through the blinds again. I learned to always grab a towel before leaving the shower. I was going to do some more pot pies, she said, but I'd remembered you said you were a vegetarian now, so I told my husband Ebner I'd better just bring you some fruit pies. Did you save some for him? I asked. Oh, they're not good for his waistline, she said. Besides, he's off to his sister's for the weekend, and I'll have left from my vacation by the time he gets back. I've left him a list of chores to keep him busy, otherwise he'll just sit around and read. Are you visiting friends? I said. Oh, no, just a trip on my own. I'll be taking the train to Chicago, then look for a nice cheap hotel. I'll be back in a week or two, nothing special. I'd just like to wander around and talk to people and find out all about them. You can't be too trusting nowadays, I said. Oh, don't be silly, Jeffrey. I'm a good judge of people. She held the pies out to me. Thank you, Gladys, I said. You're too kind. And she was. It was a nice gesture at first, but I tired of pie after pie, chicken and beef and veal and turkey, all with the same bland taste. I'd panicked one day when she brought 4 at once and told her I'd become a vegetarian. Well, freezing them all didn't really help, as I really didn't want to eat them at all. Besides, I needed the freezer for other things. It had taken me a few days to dispose of them as it was, as I couldn't just put them out in the trash. I was pretty sure Gladys made a late-night tour of the neighborhood, snooping in the cans at the curb. So I ended up carrying the pies off, a shopping bag at a time, picking a different dumpster for each trip. I've done it before for other things I didn't want found. Gladys, come in, I said. Here, let me take those pies. They're cherry, she said. Fresh picked. Abner and I went out to that new pick-your-own place, and we got several baskets for next to nothing. Well, I did at least. I tried to get Abner to pick some too, but he just disappeared. I was willing to bet he'd just found a quiet corner and enjoyed the peace and quiet. He'd once confided to me that when she'd take off on our annual holiday all by herself, it was like heaven, and reminded him of the joys of being single. It was the day before her return from her last trip, and he'd been depressed. A nice guy, really, just being pestered and nagged to death. I'd wished I'd had a solution for him other than a coffee and a sympathetic ear. Gladys spied the empty wine bottle in the bin by the door. Oh, wine, she said. Oh, must have been quite a party. Just me and a friend, I said. The one you saw come to my door at supper time? Such a pretty thing, she said. Still here, I suppose? And she tried to peek into the living room from where she stood. No, she left after dinner. You must have missed her somehow. Well, Gladys looked almost insulted that somehow she'd missed something in the neighborhood, and then brightened. Oh, no matter. Here, let me put one of the pies in the freezer for you. They freeze beautifully. Oh, no, I cried. I leaped in front of the freezer. No room. I bought a lot of vegetables at the market on sale and froze them all. Here, sit down. Let's try that pie. I made some tea and cut us each a slice of cherry pie. It definitely was delicious and still warm. Gladys obviously enjoyed it too, trying to talk and eat at the same time, but the thick red juice staining her lips like blood. I see you've been busy with spring cleaning, she said. You had a big pile of boxes last garbage day, and that huge suitcase, all strapped up, big enough for a body. I smiled. I found it in the attic, all musty. I filled it with junk from the garage. I was worried the men might find it too heavy to throw in, she said, so I was outside ready to give them heck. And hoping that it broke open when they lifted it, I thought. I must say your kitchen is even cleaner than mine, she said. Everything sparkles. So unusual to see a man so tidy. Well, I did end up with a bit of a mess in the kitchen last night, I said. Sometimes I get a little carried away when I entertain. I even did some steaks. Gladys opened her mouth to speak. No, for my friend, not me, I said. I noticed some dried blood on the floor by the table leg and slid my foot over it. Gladys pushed aside her empty plate. Oh, that was good, if I do say so myself, but I'd better get back home and get ready to go. She put the dishes in the sink and then picked up the other pie and turned toward the freezer. I'm sure we can find room for this, she said. Before I could get to her, she opened the lid, then screamed. The pie fell to the floor, bursting apart with a red splatter. I stepped up behind her and held her by the shoulders. Well, you've caught me now, Gladys. Whatever will we do? She stared into the freezer, speechless with shock for a few moments. My God, she said. So many pieces, all cut up and nicely bagged. She turned and looked up at me. There must be half a cow in there. The end. Was that what you thought Gladys might find? For the second story, we were to consider how a month with 2 full moons affects people. I took it to a sky somewhere with 3 moons, all at the same time. Many moons. I miss Grandma, said Bree. I miss her too, said her mum, but she did have a pretty long and exciting life. She was almost 50 when the ship landed, 33 as we count the years now. She worked tirelessly those first few years, overseeing the colony, and had just started to slow down when she got pregnant. Tell me again, said Bree, why was she so old before she was a mummy? Well, she'd never got around to it, hon, always busy with planning this mission and then the long sleep here and all the work once they landed. Didn't she want you, Mummy? Oh, she did, once she got pregnant. That was a big surprise to her, that was all. Most of the women wanted babies, but after several years, with everyone trying to get pregnant and no one succeeding, they started to get worried. We don't have to try all the time, do we? Said Bree. No, it's different now, said her mum. Remember the talk we had about eggs and babies? Bree nodded. You used to have eggs all the time, and now we don't. That's right, said her mum. We'd been here for 5 years when the changes came, and we suddenly all got pregnant. Even your mum, said Bree. Yeah, even my mum. We were worried at first that the colony would have problems with all those babies all at once. We set up a big daycare center for them all, and it was actually easier because then most of the women were free to focus on the colony again. Well, it simplified our lives. And the daddies helped too. Yes, we all worked together. Everyone helped, said her mum. In fact, the daddies seemed to focus even more on helping. We had less arguments and less fighting. We got a lot of work done over the next few years. And you figured out why you got babies, said Bree. Yes, we did, said her mother. It was the moons. The 3 ladies, Luna, Aphrodite, and Anio. But they're always up there, said Bree. Yes, we always see at least one of the ladies up there. Their paths across the sky do weave an interesting pattern. Like my looms, said Bree. I used to worry the moons would get too close and bump into each other. When I was 7, not now. Her mum ruffled her hair. Lots of the other kids did too. You were all 7, so had a lot of things in common. But sometimes those threads in the sky come together. Like a knot? Yes, said her mother. Every 11 years, 11 months, and 11 days, the 3 ladies line up for a few days. And we can make babies, said Bree. Yes, we can. And the men all want to make babies too, said Bree. They most certainly do. Her mother smiled. Will my dad come to see us? Said Bree. He might, said her mum. He's moved to the other village, but is here sometimes for the trading. The 3 ladies are very close to each other now, but if he's here by the weekend, it'll be in time. He's nice, said Bree. Brian isn't. He's a jerk. He used to be my friend, but I don't like him now. He's really been mean lately. It's the changes, said her mom. Brian is almost 12, just like all your other friends. Some of us react differently. The changes bring out some things inside us from our distant past, some not so nice things. Like with Brian's grandpa, said Bree. Her mom sighed. We didn't know the dangers at first, all that competitiveness and aggression compressed into a few days, and we lost a lot of people in the fighting that first time. Brian's grandpa seemed okay, then the last time he changed too much and got too wild, we had to act fast. The evening light was starting to fade, and there was a chill to the air. Bree heard a howl back in the woods. Is that a wolf? She said. Maybe just a dog, right? I hope so, dear, said her mom. Enough talk for now. Time for your lessons. First, we'll review the house defense systems and new codes, and then do some weapons drill. Can I use the laser this time, Mum? She said. Yes, you're a big girl now. The end. Yay, lasers. Certainly an interesting mating season. Stay tuned for more podcasts, either my own stories on Fridays or some of the classics on Tuesdays. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get the next installment as soon as it's ready. If you enjoy this reading or have other stories you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. Do check out my other posts on my Substack at ravensview.substack.com. Ta-ta for now.